Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bunbun to break down and share our True Detective Night Country Episode 3 reaction and review. We're at the halfway point of this season, everybody. Let's just all get sad together because there's not a lot of time for them to wrap up whatever in the world is going on with this show.
Yeah, and there's a lot of threads going on this season and a lot of threads that have connected to season one. We have a few videos up here at the channel about those connections, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of those connections here with Annie K. You know, the biggest question that we have is she a victim of what the Tuttles were doing? Is she somebody who escaped?
Yeah, the connections are littered throughout the season at this point. Like, there's no way that we can get around all of them. And I think the question is just like, how far do they go? Because, we talk about the idea of the spiral itself,
Mhm.
which is obviously a huge symbol within True Detective lore, but it also can sort of mean spiraling down, going further and further. So you can sort of think of this season as we're going down this spiral staircase where who knows what we're going to discover at the bottom, but it seems like in some ways, even if this is an isolated case, I think we can still look at the origins of what happened, the psychology of a lot of these people to the Tuttles, what they have going on at the Salal research station, and also maybe the mine. Like, is it crazy to sit here and be like, okay, are the Tuttles also involved in the mine? Because we've learned so
Mhm.
much about the stinking mine. I don't think it's crazy to think that there are additional connections between the two places.
100%. I mean, that was something that Pete brought to Danvers' attention, to all of our attention, is that the Tuttles' reach is very far and wide, that they have their hands in a lot of different pies. So would they have their hand in the mines as well? Yeah, why not?
Yeah, okay. We're gonna get into all of that, the ending of this episode, that video that Andy K left, so much more, so much more. But first, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss any more True Detective Night Country videos, previews, theories. We've got all sorts of good stuff here. Also, we have live streams about True Detective Night Country every single week at our Patreon. You can check that out by looking at that link right in the description.
Okay, let's talk about Annie K because I mean, she's so important to the story. She is the person that, we have Navarro looking into and Danvers looking into and everything like that, on top of what's happening with the scientists. But we got this video of her where she was kind of like, hey, my name is, Annie. If something happens to me, and then she just starts screaming and all these things are happening to her. It looks very specifically like she's in some sort of a cave, an ice cave, maybe a mine, maybe a mine. We know that she was protesting the mines right before she got killed. So is it possible that she was in these mines doing something at the time that, she was getting killed?
Okay. Everybody put on your tinfoil hats. I mean, just a warning in advance.
Theories are coming.
And they're gonna get weird. Like,
Oh,
this is welcome to Weird World, everybody. I am the mayor of Weird Town here.
listen, all theories are welcome here. It doesn't matter how far out they are. We all know nothing at this point.
Yeah.
So throw out your theories for us as well in
Yeah.
the comments.
This is just a really fun thing to do. And
Yeah.
so, okay, here's the thing with this show and what we sort of can dive into at this point. We know that the Salal research station is working on something that potentially could cure a lot of diseases. They're like digging deep into the permafrost. They're trying to find answers in even the tiniest of organisms.
Yeah.
Now, I've already posited in here that I think that the Tuttles may be connected to both the mine and the research station because we don't know a lot about the mine as of yet. What I think this show may be getting to here is that the people at Salal are trying to find a way to basically come up with a perfect cure all for the world, if you will. And I think to some extent it may involve DNA. Like, I've seen theories out there already that, okay, maybe they're trying to revive Annie K. Like, I'm not willing to go that far, but I do think it's interesting that they had her tongue, and her tongue was clearly frozen or something because it wouldn't have been in that state when it was found. So I think
No.
they were clearly using her tongue at the station for something, whether it be compiling DNA, whether it be this sort of idea of, are they creating, whether it is a DNA strand? Are they like actually growing a person in a lab? Are they doing something to sort of be like, okay, this is our creation, or this is our idea. This is somebody who could be immune from all these sort of diseases. And the reason I'm bringing this all up in connection to the video that Annie left is she said specifically, I found it. It's here. What did she find? Did she find the secret? Did she find what they are really working on here? And because to me, that's a discovery that if these scientists are desperate to keep this under wraps, or if this is going down a really dark road, and if they're working for the Tuttle family, it would go down a really dark road. They would be willing to kill her for that discovery. And then
Mm-hmm.
also, after the fact, be like, okay, you're dead. You already, you've got this spiral going on, so there's clearly some connection here already. Why don't we just continue to then use you for the purposes of our research?
Yeah, I mean it's got to be connected in some way. I think that the lab and the mines and the Tuttles all have some sort of connection. But here's another theory. This is also kind of out there. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, we're all just theory friends here at this
Yeah.
point. So Annie had these, dreams about this spiral when she was in high school, which was about the age that a lot of the other young women were getting taken by the Tuttles and everything that was going on with the Childress family and all of that. So, is it possible that, she had these high school dreams of it, she got the tattoo and then it went away is the story that they all stopped. I had wondered, tinfoil hat theory,
Yeah.
if this had actually happened to her, that she was actually a victim of the Tuttles and all of this that was going on, and she had repressed that trauma and it was coming out in her dreams, that then she got the spiral and it went away. And that maybe when she got the spiral, maybe some of those traumas came back and she started to figure out a couple things and remember a couple things about the Tuttles, about what happened to her. And she was digging into it more. And the reason that I'm going down this road is because of what the hairdresser said. So there was a conversation that was said that Annie was really pushing hard to go to that lab, like really hard, like unusually hard. And she had only been up there that one time. And it's like, is it because the lab is connected to the mines,
Hmm.
which is definitely a possibility. It's high up there on the list. Or is it because she was looking for answers about what happened to her with the Tuttles and she found out the information, which is that this place is funded by the Tuttles, and she wanted to get up there. She wanted to see what she could figure out. She, got into this relationship with Clark right away. And then she kept it a secret, that it seems like he didn't want to keep it a secret. He was in love. And she was
Hmm.
like, yeah, I'm in love too. But like, you can't tell anybody that you know me or that I'm up here or like anything. Like, you can't tell anybody. So I feel like she was up there to get information either on the Tuttles, what happened to her, or the mines. There's something, there's a reason why she was up there. It wasn't just like, hey, I want to check out, the labs. Like she pushed too hard for that.
I think it all then kind of leads into this question of, okay, what is Clark's role in all of this? Like, what is Clark doing now? How does he feel about Annie? What happened with Annie? How did that drive him? Like, is he, full on a part of everything that's horrible going on in this world? Is it
Yeah.
something a little bit different? Because, I mean, a lot of what happened in that trailer is indicative of, like, some degree of madness where he has sort of been driven mad by this idea of the spiral and by himself sort of going down this metaphorical staircase.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of wondering if it's Clark was on a bit of a revenge tour over what happened with Annie. And I'd mentioned that in a couple other
Hmm.
videos, that maybe during their relationship, even though it was a secret, she confided in him in things that she's either figured out about the mine, about the Tuttles, about if she is a victim of the Tuttles and what happened, about the spiral, about, everything else. Because there was a lot of stuff in that trailer that was felt very much linked back to what happened in season one. I'm sure there's some mind stuff in there, but there was so much that was linked back to season 1 that I was like, okay, maybe she told him about this stuff. Then she got killed and Clark was like, okay, no. I feel like I know what's going on here and I need to figure it out. Is it possible that he got his hands on the tongue to be able to do some sort of DNA matching, figure some stuff out, find a way to match her to the Tuttles to be able to take it all down?
What I like about your theory here is mostly this thematic idea of darkness and light, in that there's clearly a lot of darkness caused by the Tuttles, and I think it's very easy for us to sit here and say, okay, Clark is also the darkness because Clark is out there. We still don't know where Clark is, but what if Clark is the light in darkness's costume?
Mhm.
It's weird as that sort of sounds, where he is trying to do a good thing here, but because he knows that there is all this darkness going on in the world, he has to be very specific with how he chooses to do it. Because,
Mhm.
like, the big question I sort of have about Clark in a lot of ways is like, okay, if you were trying to help Annie, or if you're trying to get some sort of revenge, like, why not expose this? Like, why not get this out there for everyone to see? And if that's the case, he just may not trust anybody, which would make a certain amount of sense because not all these cops are necessarily doing things the right way here. I mean,
Mhm.
even just look at, Hank and the information Hank knew and the information that Hank just decided, I'm not going to say anything for some very depressing reasons.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when that all of that came
Yeah,
out. I
no.
mean, like, we did also learn a little bit about Danvers and Navarro's falling out. I don't think we've learned all the truth. She was telling the story to Pete, and she was clearly lying about part of this story of this guy named William Wheeler that they had gotten a lot of calls about with his very young woman that he was with, and they weren't able to do anything. And finally, when they get to his home, which, we were theorizing that maybe because in the trailer it looked like possibly maybe Louisiana, looked like it could have been, more of a springtime, summertime in Alaska. Now we know that it was in Alaska, that the two of them end up going there and they see that the woman is dead, but William is not. But they're telling the story that he, killed her and then unalived himself. But that is not what happened. It's very similar to what happened in season 1 with Rust and Marty, where they got to that compound. Marty came running out and shot that guy in the head, and then we had Rust on the other side being like, well, I guess we better have a shootout. We better like cover this up. And they lied for each other. And now it kind of feels like maybe that's actually part of the falling out. Like, we don't know what exactly ended up happening with William Wheeler to make them break off.
This is really difficult because I don't necessarily want them to just be echoing directly season 1, but
No.
at the same time, I don't know what else happened, just because of the fact that we already know Wheeler is dead. So it's not like Wheeler just got away here, and whatever happened had to be some sort of massive difference of opinion where one of them must have done something. The other person had to have been really, really unhappy about it, but
Hmm.
at the end of the day was just like, okay, I don't want to compromise my own career here, so I'm just gonna, sit back, shut up, not mention anything about this, but I don't want to work with you anymore. It's just like, I mean, you guys can
Yeah.
let us know in the comments if you have any other ideas as to what may have happened here. It's just maybe it's because I'm too busy obsessing over possibly creating people in some sort of secret cavern that Annie K has discovered. I just can't think of anything else here.
Okay, let's talk about Navarro and Navarro's mom and this theory that's going around online that, some of you guys have brought to us. And it's a really interesting theory. We haven't looked too much into it yet, as in like going back and rewatching the episodes that have aired already. But there's a theory going around that Rose isn't alive and that Navarro is seeing dead people, that, Rose has seen Travis because she's also dead, because people are saying that the only person that has seen Rose is only Navarro. And then we end up at this last scene with one of the scientists, I think his name was Lund, where, he sits up in bed seconds before he flatlines and is basically like, hello, Evangeline, your mother says hello sort of thing. And it's just like, well, how would he know that information? He wouldn't, unless that he's dead. So is Navarro seeing dead people and nobody else is? And that's where she's getting the information from. And she thinks she's actually like seeing these people and these people are actually alive.
This is where things get complicated because it's sort of a question of let's say this is true and Navarro is seeing dead people or believing she's seeing dead people.
Right.
How much of these dead people reliable narrators? Because we have
Mhm.
one sort of go up and be like, "Hello, Clarice," and it's just sort of like,
Seems like Travis was. I mean, he kind of, brought
yeah,
Rose, who may be dead, maybe not dead, and then able to tell Navarro stuff. So I don't know.
it's complicated, and it is
It
a
is.
situation here where I feel like most of what we're seeing is to some extent accurate. However, this is once again goes back to the great, Scooby Doo metaphor earlier on this season we discussed is that just because something looks supernatural to us, it doesn't mean that it necessarily is
Mhm.
supernatural. Like we could be seeing a situation here with Navarro that yeah, I agree with what you brought. I don't think that Lund, who is near death, suddenly just like springs up, says something, and then dies. Like I don't think that
No.
happened.
I mean, Navarro also hit her head before that, right? So, I mean, things might be a little bit, foggy at that point because we saw her out on the ice with the orange. It came back, which was, seemingly very weird. She saw somebody out there, she tried to run, she slipped and hit her head. So, I mean, some of it might have an explanation. It's not just she's seeing ghosts.
Yeah, I think that she obviously is not doing great. I think there's also just the explanation of okay, when you're lonely out in a place like this, you start to see things maybe not really as they are, or even at times as you want them to be. I think Navarro as a person, I think she's desperate to sort of have answers. I think she
Hmm.
kind of constantly finds herself on this show not really knowing where she stands, not feeling accepted by any particular group. Like she
Hmm.
doesn't even have a traditional name, and you can see
Hmm.
that that eats away at her
Yep.
repeatedly. Like she is sort of this person who is desperate to find a place, and I think that's sort of a big theme kind of throughout the entirety of this show is you have all these different people who are trying to figure out where they belong and
Hmm.
maybe they're sort of trying to see things elsewhere as a way to sort of see a sign. And I think also there is this interesting connection between Navarro and her sister, who we can sort
Hmm.
of say, okay, her sister is somewhat of like a supplemental storyline here, but her sister's got some issues that are going on as well. Like she was crying in this episode saying that someone was coming, and she says at one point, you see that the water, the sea, I think stuff, bad stuff. And that's going on.
Hmm.
Navarro is clearly seeing some things as well. I think there are more links between the two of them than they really even realize, and that might be important as we move forward.
Yeah.
Now, okay, beyond all of this, there's a lot that is going on there. We have to sort of also look back and think about okay, we still don't know how these people actually died, these scientists. I mean, Lund obviously didn't die. I tried to do a little bit of research on this, and I am not a former funeral director like you. I am not a coroner. I am nothing,
I am
but
also not a coroner.
I was just trying to. So I tried to do a little bit of research. Like, okay, can people who are completely frozen really survive? And the simplest answer I get is like, if they are completely frozen, probably not. And so it does sort of raise this question of, okay, is this show really just being supernatural
Yeah.
again? Were these bodies really there that long before they were found, or at the very least, was Lund not there for that long after they
Hmm.
were found? The only real answer we got in this episode, courtesy of the massive forensics expert, otherwise known as the
The
vet
vet.
that Pete found, is just that okay, these people did not actually die of the cold. That's not why. That's not why whatever happened to them happened.
Yeah, he thinks maybe cardiac arrest, that he's just basically like if you're freezing to death, you're going into a slumber, that it's more of a more peaceful way to die. You're not going to be in the positions that these scientists were in where they look like they had just pure terror on their face.
What if, once again, Mayor of Weird Town, what if this look of terror sort of stems from this idea that whatever they created in the lab
Mhm.
started to wake up, started to
Mhm.
come around? I mean, we
Mhm.
did hear Clark be like, she's awake, and
Mhm.
there's still no symptoms of anything else like happening to these scientists. There's still no signs of gunshot wounds. There's still no signs of
No.
anything going on. And whatever was going on with these researchers was obviously really bad enough that people who worked at that station do not even want to think about it, do not want to do anything. And that brings us to Oliver.
Oh, Oliver.
Yeah, for a good chunk of this episode, we saw that there was this hunt going on for this guy who
Mhm.
used to work at Salal, who
Yep.
had this relationship with this hairdresser, and like he does not want to talk about Salal. He did not seem to know about the scientist's death, and it seemed based on the look on reaction that he had that that was pretty genuine.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's whatever is going on in the lab. That's why I think your theory's not that far out
Okay.
there, that there's something very weird going on out there because they basically are playing God out there and trying to figure out sort of this, cure all for everything, which is extremely powerful, sort of looking for the first sort of little signs of life or whatever that they're looking for. Like it can be very dangerous put in the wrong hands. And we know that this lab is funded by the Tuttles, and we know that they are very dangerous. So, I mean, is it possible that they are trying to figure out how to create humans or reanimate humans? I don't know. And I think it's the people are there's so much mystery around this lab that even the people that are like coming in and out of the lab like an Oliver do not know what is going on up there.
Yeah, all they know is that they've been clearly been given a massive reason to be shaken up and afraid by a lot of this, to the extent that he's saying things like, she's out there in the ice, she came for us. It's like, okay, here's where we get to my ultimate theory as to what really happened to
Mhm.
the scientists.
Okay.
All right, so I feel like if we're in a situation here where all these people either died from cardiac arrest or for
Right.
fright or something like that, maybe, I said this in a previous video, maybe they were all planted with a certain something while they were eating or drinking. It is a community that caused like their adrenaline to spike so that when
Good.
something happened in that building, they would all immediately go into shock a little bit further. Yes, it's possible that a created human starts walking around, or it's just possible that they might have somebody up there who came in sort of dressed up as this idea, basically becomes the Scooby-Doo person in the costume to just scare them, to just sort of put them in a state where something bad would happen.
Yeah, this season is definitely playing around with the idea of ghosts and the idea of like, can ghosts still be talking to people in this world? Can they be frightening people to death in this world? Like they're definitely playing in that pool this season. And it
Yeah,
it doesn't mean that they're actually going to be like there's only a couple ways that they can go with it. It's either yes, there's ghosts, or it's Scooby Doo, and they're gonna pull the mask off and be like, "It was actually a real person all along," kind of thing.
I think one of the other larger messages that's kind of an undercurrent here, and this may not tie in directly to the case, is this idea of don't manipulate nature, don't mess with nature, just let nature be. And that's sort of coursing through everything that's going on right now with the protests. And we see
Yeah.
like this real back and forth between, Danvers and her daughter Leah about some of this. And I think, this may not be connected to the case, but I think it still kind of matters in the larger thematic sense of this show, where Danvers is trying to get answers and explanations for everything. She thinks that some of this other stuff is either a
Yep.
danger or a waste of time, when I think they should be looking to the land and listening to the land and trying to figure out what exactly that is telling them, because that's where some
Yeah.
of the answers may be.
I think that Danvers is very concerned that something's going to happen to her stepdaughter. That, I think, she knows that before Annie died, she was protesting the mines. Now she's dead. Now her stepdaughter's like, getting in there with that stuff too. I'm sure Danvers is like, no, not my stepdaughter. That is not happening.
Yeah, and I understand all of that. I mean, we're just in a really interesting spot now on the show where we've got about 4 or 5 different storylines that are going
Mhm.
on here, and we really even still haven't talked that much about how much are we meant to care about Pete and his family, or what's going on with Hank and his mail order bride. And I don't think that stuff is mattering. I think it's just to humanize those characters, but
Mhm.
it's not something we can necessarily forget about here. I think at the end of the day, a lot of the big question just comes down to, is Clark, as you have put it, really just out for revenge, out to be the sort of light in the darkness, or has he become another victim of sort of just this spiraling out caused by the Tuttles, where he has descended into madness, found a way to kill all these people, and now he's going to start taking out a lot of other people as well, and that just kind of goes into, where is he? I think he's still in the mine somewhere. I think he might be wherever we saw Annie K record that message. Maybe that is the clue. I just hope we see him before the finale.
Yeah, I'd like to see what's going on with him, but I mean, I think the one thing we can all agree on is everything that the Tuttles puts their hands on turns to crap. I mean, it happened in season 1, it's happening here, like murder and all this horrible things just follow them around
Yeah.
because they be creating problems everywhere they go.
Yes, everywhere. Okay, I mean, this is a great season. I think clearly we're having a really good time talking about it. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you guys don't miss our preview,
Yep.
other theory stuff we have
Yep.
coming up. There's still so much to talk about with Night Country. Also, click on that box right there to see a new theory breakdown where we really get into why Tuttle United is so important, all the connections to season 1.
Mhm.
Also, thank you to our patrons.
Yep.
Live streams every week on Patreon talking all about True Detective. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you here next time.